Hello, how are you guys? Today I took a walk over at the Veterans Park in Leander, and there's ducks or geese there. I don't know. I should know which they are. They're white and I don't know. But if you go there and you walk around by the water, there might be a duck goose who comes after you and will bite you if you don't have any food. Not saying that happened to me, but I'm just saying. Okay. All right, so that's your where to be careful when you walk tip for today. Now, I'm doing question number one for week whatever, 82,000, which is chapter 26, Triumph of Conservatism. And the question's about the Vietnam conflict. Now, I know you had a discussion board question about this last week, so this should be pretty easy for you, hopefully, maybe, hope so. We'll go back a little bit. Some of the page numbers, oh my goodness, on the question, I put pages 1005 to 1109. It's 1009. So sorry, it's not 104 pages. It's just four. And then a few pages in chapter 26. Those previous pages are from chapter 25 because the Vietnam conflict lasts a long time. Officially probably starts at Dien Bien Phu, the fall of Dien Bien Phu in 1954. When the French are no longer able to hold control of the country, they ask us to help the same way that we maybe helped under the Truman Doctrine in Greece and Turkey with our friends England, and we told the French, no, we're out of that business. Um, that's during the Eisenhower administration. So we just send stuff and we prop up the No Din Diem regime, which is an oddly Catholic regime in Vietnam. And one of the problems that you'll see with that regime, in addition to mismanaging money, taking bribes, not getting the confidence of the people in South Vietnam to the point where they might win an election that would unify the country, they also have a regime that's oppressive to Buddhists, which is just a mistake, a huge mistake in a Buddhist country. So they closed down Buddhist temples, Buddhist worship services, and started oppressing Buddhists. And what you'll notice is protests. And because it's a different country, different sort of protest, these guys protested by self-immolation. This is not something I would ever suggest to you. There's a very famous picture of it in your textbook. But this is where you set yourself on fire to protest something. And the end result is you die. Now, if you're Buddhist, it's probably a different kind of way of looking at things because you get reincarnated and you'll come back as a higher life form. Um, that's probably not the way most of you would feel about this form of protest. There's some very famous Pulitzer Prize winning photos. That's the one that's in your textbook, I'm certain, of these protests. And what ends up happening is the people in South Vietnam that we are supposed to be fighting for and protecting ask if it would be okay if they overthrow their leader, Diem, and we give them permission to and say we won't cut off their funding. If they do that, that happens, excuse me, at the end of the Kennedy administration. Of course, Kennedy doesn't know that's the end of his administration. You recall why. So then Diem gets assassinated that year as well. When Johnson takes over in 1963, 64, he says something, there's a quote in the book about how he's not going to be the president that presides over a war that we lose and that Vietnam ends up the same way that China ended up, evil, godless, and communist. So he is going to go all out. And to do so, he needs more permission from Congress to spend money and send troops because we haven't officially declared war. And for the president to have a lot of control about how we spend money, send troops, that sort of thing, we have to have an official declaration of war from the Congress, which we didn't get. So he asked for a resolution after a submarine, a warship, USS Maddox, Maddox, I believe, is shot at, maybe not, depends on whose story you like, in the Gulf of Tonkin. And we may have sent a ship very close to the North Vietnamese coast to see if they would shoot at us so that we could justify attacking them, or maybe not. It's hard to say. And it may have been shot at and it may not have been shot at. It really, yeah, the reports differ. But after something happens to the USS Maddox, and it takes them several hours to get permission to defend themselves, um, in the next few days, the president, Johnson, LBJ, goes to Congress and says, hey, we were sitting ducks. We really need to make sure that our people can defend themselves. So I need a resolution that would allow me to send whatever troops, whenever I need to send them, without coming back to you every single time and getting permission. So they passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution in '64, which essentially gives the president unlimited power to send troops and materiel, war stuff, into the combat area. And as you recall from the last chapter, um, LBJ follows a pattern that he'll refer to. I don't know if your book calls it this or not, but it is in the question, Americanization, where we send lots and lots of American troops. At the height of our presence in Vietnam, we had over 500,000 people in country. So Americanization is the plan to make sure that the war is prosecuted, fought with American troops. And that is an LBJ plan because he doesn't want to lose the war and be the first president to lose a war and to lose the country to communism. Well, you saw how that went. And the country begins to protest against this policy of Americanization, our increased involvement in the war. It's part of the reason that Nixon becomes president. So then Nixon gets elected in '68, takes office in '69. A couple of bad things happen in '68 on LBJ's way out. One is the Tet Offensive, and one is the My Lai Massacre. Now, when you're looking for Tet Offensive, you'll want to look on page 1024. And when you look for the My Lai Massacre, you want to look on page 1040. 1024, I think, was the first one. Let me look again. Yep, and 1040. These things happen in the same year, although they're talked about in different chapters. So Tet Offensive was the Vietnamese New Year. Typically, both sides took a week or so off to do what you do for Vietnamese New Year, which is drink, eat, and gamble. That year, the Viet Cong, who were the citizen militia, they don't wear uniforms and they aren't official. They didn't take the week off. So they were able to overtake all the major cities in South Vietnam over a weekend. And this happened on camera. This is the first televised war, so the American people got to see live footage of this occurring. This is happening while our government is telling us that we're winning the war. It makes the government's credibility less than good. So it does destroy their credibility a bit. And you have a fairly famous newscaster, Walter Cronkite. He's the guy in the UT commercials that says what happens in Texas changes the world. But at any rate, Walter Cronkite says, we've lost the war. And then LBJ says, if we've lost Cronkite, we've lost America. The My Lai Massacre, My Lai was a village where a sniper took out an American soldier. The American soldiers unit went into My Lai, which was really populated with old folks and kids, took them all out, asked them to help them find the sniper. They were unable or unwilling, so they killed everyone in the village. This is not following military protocol at all. Somebody goes to jail over this, but only for a few months. But it does show that maybe our goals and our procedures are less than noble. Vietnamization is Richard Nixon's plan to take American troops out of the conflict and replace them with Vietnamese troops. So that's a reversal of the LBJ policy. And Nixon's thought is it's the war in Vietnam, Vietnamese troops should be fighting this. Also, one of his campaign promises was to get us out of Vietnam with honor. In this process, he also increases bombing of North Vietnam, North Vietnam, and lots of civilian targets. He also decides to bomb the supply lines and troop movement lines that are in Laos and Cambodia. And since we're not officially there, this is not officially legal. This is one of the things that the students were protesting at Jackson State and Kent State. It was widely seen as unpopular, inhumane, that sort of thing. So what eventually happens in 72, we start peace talks. This kind of coincides with Nixon's reelection. I'm sure that's coincidental, maybe. And we eventually get out of Vietnam officially by 75. All the troops are out. Our agreement is that we'll leave and that they will return any POWs. Part of that agreement was fulfilled. We did leave. They did not return the POWs. And as the video that the 20th century Mike Wallace video will talk about, this is a war that once we're out, we really don't talk about. And it's kind of, I don't know that embarrassment is the right word, but very few people look back at this war and say, hey, we prosecuted that well, we served the purpose. A lot of the concerns about the Vietnam conflict, about us being unsuccessful, would have to do with us not having a clear and defined mission and not having a clear and defined military plan. And if you have relatives who fought in this would probably be grandparent age people. It's going to kind of depend on when they got in, when they got out, where they were from. I know a lot of my uncles and some other people that I know think that the war was unsuccessful because we let politicians plan the strategy. And if the military had been able to do whatever they wanted to do, this war we could have won very quickly. The other side of the coin is we didn't have any business being there at all, and anything we did was really harmful to the citizens of Vietnam. And there were lots of protests. It was unpopular. We do officially lose. And all right, so by the time we're out, we honestly don't care how we get out. We just want to get out. So we are supposed to protect people, especially the Hmong people, HMONG, who live in the mountains of Vietnam and were very supportive of the United States. And instead, we kind of get out and they get massacred unless they got to immigrate to the United States. So it's a very tragic ending, especially for the people in Vietnam. Again, textbook pages you want to look at 1005 to 1009, and then 1039 to 1041, and you have those links that are in the assignment page. All right, good luck to you and have a good evening. You are probably watching the NFL draft right now. That tells you when I'm making this video. So I will talk to you again soon. Bye.